Got that trim ring on the air vent, so that dressed that up pretty nice now. Got the tail light lens put on. It's the top, like 3/4 of an inch of a Henry J. Gives this nice little light pattern off of it, the little lines there from the glass. I put made my own little rubber gasket to go on the bottom and then also up in this area, just so it clamps it nice and easy, but has rubber around the glass. After test drive, keep blowing fuses every time the overdrive kicks in. Notice there's a really small wire on here. This looks like a 10 or 12 gauge connection here, and this is like a 14, 16 gauge wire, so I think it's drawn too much current. So I'm also gonna open this and make sure the contacts in there are nice and clean too. Contacts inside the governor look really nice, so I think it's just current draw on that small wire. See the way this thing works here. When the governor pushes up on this, you'll hear it click. So it seems to be working good. So I'll just replace those wires. You can also see the wire gauge. You just barely see it down there on the solenoid switch is not 10 or 12 gauge, and those are probably more important even in the governor, but so we'll switch those out also. Okay, on the solenoid we got big 10 gauge wire to the top of that, and we also got 10 gauge wire with a screw and nut on this side, so we should have good current flow here. Here's the old one. Here's a new one. Big difference. On that first test run, the speedometer worked for about 2 miles and then it stopped. And this is the gear. It goes in the tail section, and the speedometer cable comes into this end. And this gear is just pressed on. You can see it's pretty well chewed up, brittle. There's a website, Kaiser Willys, says they've got two gears left, so I ordered them. And it's a 20-tooth gear for a 455 rear end with that Borg Warner transmission, so we'll see if that fixes it. When I first put these emblems on, I didn't have the K's that go in here. There's these K's that go in here, and there's a nut that goes on the bottom of this that slides down through. There's 3 of these on my model. The cars that had the rim, the hubcaps, the Kaiser hubcaps like that instead of the spokes. There's about in this area right here, there should be another one of those emblems on each side, and that is potentially in this area right here. So what I seen on the cars is kind of straight across from here and straight up from here, so somewhere in this area. So I'm going to look and see if there's places. If I reach behind there, that's somewhat open there. Hopefully it's not back inside the door area. Okay, now we got the K on that one. Work on the other two. All the pictures I see online, basically if you come up an inch or two from this fender, come back about 4 inches back of this, it should be in this area. And unfortunately the wall in there runs up here in this, so that badge, you got to take the door out and it's clear up in this corner is where those holes are going to be. And I got to take this passenger door off anyways, because the one of the bolts that's attached to a bracket that's welded on, the weld broke, so I need to take that off anyways. That way I can make the interior panel the way it's supposed to be with the bolt through it to hold it in place. We got both of those emblems put on each side. Up inside those door areas is where that's at. As I looked closely and tried to get the location right to spot for what I see on other cars, I didn't see any evidence up in there of holes that were there prior, so I went ahead and put them on because my car came with these style hubcaps, and everybody tells me that I should have these two on there. That's down to the last couple things for this car, and I put oil, it's a 90 weight gear oil inside this. I just went ahead and topped it off, and within 20-30 minutes half of it ran right back out on the ground. The front seal is out on this, so had to take the steering box loose. I got to put new seals in it. You have to take the steering to do this, it's not so easy. Had to take the steering wheel back off, slide the painted column out, and there's a ground wire on that. I took that off, and of course the turn signal. And it looks like I'm gonna have to pull the fuel pump off to get it to clear. So I'll take the fuel line, the fuel pump off, and then hopefully it'll slide out of there, and then I can start tearing it down. Okay, got the steering gear box out. And it's no wonder they had cost overruns in production on this thing. To get that steering box out, I had to take the manifold off, fuel pressure, or I mean fuel pump, the fuel lines. I had to take the air supply, disconnect it, remove a bracket over here, and then disconnect all the brackets underneath of the steering inside there. And finally it came out after about an hour and a half of disassembling the left side of the engine area. So at least we got it out. Now we got seals coming, and we'll get this thing fixed. We'll work our way through steering disassembly box in Chapter 10's book. We got the thing in a vise, taking these bolts out and getting ready to lift this piece off here. You want to mount it in a vise so that you've got access to these. So you take this cap off where the adjusting screw is, and take the little star piece off, and then as you turn this thing clockwise, the thread and the cap will help raise the cap off. We can get the top off of there. And we'll take the adjusting screw, just slides in that little slot there. We want to get this gear out of here. Push from the bottom side. Nice looking clear stuff there. Steering was actually, the gear felt pretty nice and didn't have a lot of play in it, so that was nice. Now we'll take this end cover off. This is where the shims are for this adjustment in this gear. So we'll be real careful taking that out of there so we can leave the same shims in there. Like I say, there was hardly no in play at all, and it steered really nice, just wouldn't hold any fluid. Next thing we want to do is get these. There's basically some bearings and seals in here, and we just have to tap on the end of the steering column lightly and try to get those to come out of there. That was pretty light. I barely touched that and it shot right out of there. So there's a couple shims there. Definitely want to get that all cleaned up. Okay, so the main thing I noticed, I mean the bearings and stuff, I'll clean them all up, but the surfaces don't look bad inside there. And there's supposed to be a seal right there where my finger's at. There's no seal in here at all. So it's no wonder the oil just poured right out of there. There's no upper seal in this thing at all. So the lower seal, it wasn't leaking, and I've ordered a lower seal, so I'll end up replacing both of them and then get all these cleaned up and put it back together once my parts get here. Okay, we've got all the parts cleaned up. Got the bearings, all the gummy stuff out of there. So, and the gears are all cleaned up now. So, and the housing, housing's nice and cleaned. So I'll just wait for the seal. So the seal that was missing goes back in here. It wasn't even in there. So that explains that. I've got the steering column out of there and the exhaust. I thought, well, I'm only a couple bolts away from rerunning the torques on this head. You know, since I've run it up and down the road a few times, got some heat in it. It's good to go back and retorque the head bolts. So we'll go back to the pattern that's in the book here and run these and see how far off they were. One tool I found handy for this is this crow's foot attachment for the torque wrench. Then you don't have to take the rocker arm assembly. This thing can reach in behind and get on these, and as long as you keep the crow's foot at a 90-degree angle like this, the readings on the torque wrench will be the same. Just as a follow-up, all of the head bolts were anywhere from a quarter to a half turn around from the 60 to 70 inch-pound setting. So glad I went back through and torqued them all back down after having run the engine. Well, the Permatex seal did not work. It just doesn't stick to this kind of rubber. So I went and got some 3M VHB tape. Feels super sticky from the outside. So this stuff is supposed to stick to about anything. Got it off Amazon. It's pretty cheap. So we're gonna give it a shot. See if we can get that seal to stay on there. Here we got the two-sided tape applied on one side. I went along and made sure I pressed nice and firm all the way along there. Now we'll peel off a little bit at a time, and I'm putting it on with this. You can see there's a thick and a thin side. So what I'd like to do is put the thick side against it so it's got some rigidity, and then this will be the side that comes down and touches off on the lid of the car. So when I put it on, I'm going to put it on in this manner so that the outside of the car, you'll see this profile, you know, looking at it from this way, and then this will be on the surface. It should look nice that way. Okay, got the seal on there. Feels pretty good. I mean, I'm tugging on it pretty good there, and it's staying attached. After I got it on there, then I took this socket and just rolled and put, you know, 8 to 10 pounds of pressure along the edge, just rolling that on there to make sure I got it to stick everywhere along the surface. So now we'll just let it set until tomorrow. I'll come out and make sure it's still on there. Okay, it's next day. That's really strong. So yeah, that 3M VHB tape works really good for this kind of stuff. Okay, we got the steering box rebuilt back in there with the seals. Got the cover pipe on there, got that plate on there. And up here I've got this turn signal mounted on there, so pick up again tomorrow and see if we can finish getting this thing back together. Went ahead and filled this up. I didn't fill it completely to the top. I just made sure there was plenty of oil on the gears in there, and no drip so far. So I think we got the seals fixed on the steering box. Now put everything back together. Prepare to put this steering wheel on. I'm doing some alignment things. There's a little notch that aligns with the top of the steering wheel on these splines. So when I put the sector gear in, I made sure it was in the center, and then I aligned this, and it was pretty close. It was within a couple teeths of the sector gear being centered in the box. So I want my steering wheel to be centered, so I just turned that just a few degrees to get that at the 12 o'clock position. And I noticed the last time I was driving, it was pulling to the left. So I've got my extension ladders with a strap going between them. So I've kind of locked down this left side. I noticed it was pulling to the left pretty good. And sure enough, if we look on this side, there's a gap here. So that means this wheel would have been pushing to the left, so that makes sense. So I'm gonna tap on the pitman arm. So I've just got it close right now with this jack just kind of holding stuff up close. So I'm gonna go ahead and tap the pitman arm on, and then I'll adjust this linkage over here. I've got it loose to get this wheel on the right side to align straight, and then should have an alignment then. You can see there's also a keyway there on the pitman arm, so I've loosened up both tie rod ends so I can rotate them to get the pitman arm to line up also. I've been working with this for a couple hours and finally see the real issue here. I got the tires perfectly lined, I got the ladder strapped to each side. And what was happening, I'd put the steering wheel in center, and if I would try to adjust the right side, the left side would run out of adjustment. And then I tried the other way, and no matter what I do, I see that the tie rod and the crosslink bar are actually too long. And so when the tires are at 0 and the steering wheel's in the center and the sector gear's in the center, this is what the rods do, they overlap. So you have to have a space between them, otherwise you can't get to 0. That's why the car was pulling to the left, because this thing would be too long, which would push the back end of the tire out and make it go to the left. So I've either got to cut these rods down or get new ones. Well, I think we finally got it done. I've got everything finished in the car there. Got the left side of the engine all put back together, steering's aligned, got the steering wheel in the 0 position, interior's looking nice. So we're gonna call the restoration complete at this point. There's always stuff to do, but I hope you guys had this nice journey with me. And I got one more episode. It'll be a artistic kind of thing, so stay tuned and watch that last episode. It'll be kind of fun to watch.